Welcome back everyone. For today's video, we're gonna see some tips on how to win theory at chess. Everything legal, no cheating, everything within the rules. The first things you want to do is use the clock as your weapon. So I look at this position, and for white, I am down on time and I'm also down on material. But first, I don't resign and I keep making practical moves. My plan is really simple, just to push my pawn to the end of the board, getting a queen, and his plan should be very similar, but he has to trade rooks first. He has to find this move, rook c1, and trade rooks. And now, once I trade, then it's gonna be a race. Here, he's gonna get to promotion, and I get to promotion. But it's hard to find. He pushes f5 first, and he's thinking, oh yeah, maybe I can get in and maybe prevent this queen from promoting. But he's not on time. That's the problem. Rule of the square, right? Rule of the square is saying that he doesn't have the time. Okay, yeah, if I draw it again here, he should be in this square already, and he's just too slow to get into the promotion. And now I can trade rooks. I have built the bridge here, and yeah, now see before my clock. I had 32 seconds. In 3 moves, I spent 3 seconds, 4 seconds. And he spent 30 seconds on these moves. So now I get a queen. And yeah, this is impossible, and he ran out of time. Okay, so use the clock as your weapon. Keep putting pressure on your opponent. Keep making practical moves. Okay, this is more about not losing than actually winning. But get rid of all material if you're winning, but on time pressure. So for example, here I have 5 seconds on the clock. He has 34. He has a lot more time to think and decide. It's not a lot of time, right? There is no increment. So here I go, okay, let's just get rid of this pawn first. Now he is also just repeating. He's not even thinking. He's just repeating these 2 moves. Let's get rid of the other pawn, and at least I am not losing on time. Because if I leave this material, if I keep trying get rid of this pawn without losing any other material, I'm gonna lose on time. So let's just be realistic in those last seconds and get rid of all material, and at least you don't lose. Another tip for using the clock as your weapon, you can tell in this clock that it's white to move. And in a situation recently, my opponent was white, but he made his move physically, but he didn't press the clock. So I was pretending to think for like 20 or 30 minutes. I was just like scratching my head or grabbing my chin, pretending to think. I think at some point I fell asleep. I was just like covering my eyes. So this is allowed because you assume that your opponent hasn't finished his move if he hasn't pressed the clock. So go for it, guys, especially if you have to make the win. Next tip, we're going back to our normal board view. I'm down on material. If they offer you a trade, in this case, they're gonna offer me a trade of queens. Don't go for it. Avoid this because you need this material. And maybe later your opponent is gonna make a mistake, which is the case in this game. So I play queen d3, avoiding this trade. So knight b to d4, and I play queen b5, right? Putting pressure on this knight. And then they play rook e to d8, a3, kicking out this knight, and knight d5. So knight d5 is a mistake. Now I can take this knight and recover. And now they were also lost low on time. So yeah, whenever they offer you a trade in material, if you're down, don't go for it. And now queen c7. Oh yeah, let's try material, right? It goes the other way because now I am much better. I actually have an advantage. I can take this open file. This pawn is being protected twice. So I have a very simple plan here. Get my rook here to the open file and keep putting pressure on the opponent. So yeah, this is what's gonna be easier to play for me once that trade happens. Okay, so this is more for bullet. It's not even, I don't think it's gonna work on blitz, for example, or rapid, no. But let's see, you can exploit opening traps. For example, d4, knight f6, c4, g6, and people just even pre-move. They even pre-move bishop h6. Never pre-move. That's another tip. Never pre-move the opening. So bishop h6, and then they play immediately g7, Okay, now they're lost, right? They just lost one piece for nothing. So this might work on bullet. Let me know in the comments if it works out for you guys. One of the pieces of advice I would recommend you do is learn an opening that fits your style. A lot of people are playing the London, for example. The London is a very positional setup, very slow. You're not gonna surprise the opponent. So in this case, I was also kind of tired of just people playing the London in this position. So I'm just copying. I'm copying exactly what he's doing, right? We have a very symmetrical position. Queen b3, okay, queen b6, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6. So it's so predictable that I'm not wasting any time. I've wasted 10 seconds here. He takes on d5, knight takes on d5. Okay, I just take. If they take, now this pawn is hanging. So everything is good. Rook d1. Now I want to open up the positions. This queen now, this queen g5 is a mistake because I take in the center, and once they take back with the knight, this is an open diagonal for my bishop, and they resign on the spot. So get an opening that you're comfortable with, play it a lot, and if you can also learn the traps. You learn the traps so you get familiar with this type of openings. Here is something else about exploiting opening traps. You don't want to be this person who is very passive and is just pushing pawns. Like in this example, they push d5. I realized I have this check here on the side of the board, and now they have to move the pawn, right? They have to move g6. I go queen e5, targeting this pawn, this rook. D takes on e4. All right, I take the rook. And yeah, this is just completely lost. You don't want to be this person who doesn't prioritize development. Always do that. Always develop your pieces. And like me, if you have a chance of winning material, do it right away, just punishing your opponent. The next tip is going to be keep your bishops away from the action and your opponent might oversee it. In this case, it works with a bishop, it works with a queen. So I am down on material, I blunder this pawn. I guess that's also my style. I move queen c2, threatening to take here, or if they move the knight, I take this bishop. They take this pawn. Okay, now I can take this bishop. Where do you put this knight? That's gonna be hard, right? So they move, and I guess they forgot that my queen can come back. So yeah, and the game continues, but I'm completely winning now. I am up a full piece. So yeah, keep your pieces away from the action, and your opponent might forget. And this was a 1700 player. So an example with the bishop, my bishop is way over here, right? It's not really visible to my opponent. I guess he got tunnel vision, and now he's gonna play 96, thinking, oh yeah, I'm forking these two pieces. Yeah, but I can just take, and now this is completely losing for white. Next on the list, you want to premove whenever possible. So in this case, I'm about to win this pawn, and I don't really have to wait for the king to move. I know they only have two moves in this position, right? They cannot go here. So I can even pre-move going from to h2 and then h1. And even I can even go for this rook. So I'm gonna make it here. And so you can see it. I can pre-move. I don't have to wait for the opponent to make that move. Probably there was something better, right? I think I could have played h2. But yeah, just for the purposes of this video, you can pre-move whenever possible, and you are not wasting that kind of time. And your opponent is going also kind of crazy, like, oh, is this guy pre-moving? What is happening? You want to use gambits to gain development. So if you're gonna sacrifice a pawn, you want to have a better pawn structure or a better development. Oh, and it can also be opening up files and diagonals. An example, it can be the Queen's Gambit, where you play d4, you get d5, c4, gambiting this pawn. So if they take, now you have e3. Very good pawn structure, and they don't have any pieces developed, and they have just risked the pawn. Some people might want to protect this pawn with b5, which is really dubious move. Now you can bring your knight. You can start developing your bishop, your other knight, as well as your bishop, and black is behind in development. One of the best moves in the position for black is to play a6, which is like they are not developing pieces. This is really sad. So yeah, just use gambits to gain development. All right, so somebody did this to me. It was my first week playing chess, I believe. It was 7, 8 years ago. And then I did it to my opponent. It was something like this. So I took this pawn and he grabbed my rook. I cannot even do it here on the computer. I was like, hey, arbiter, this is an illegal move. So in the next round, in the next time he makes a move that is illegal, the game is gonna be mine, right? I win the game. And the second rule here is you already touched this piece. You already touched the king, so now you have to make a legal move with the king. You're forced to go here. So I went back, and let's say that my opponent wants to go here. Now that will be the second illegal move, and I will have the game, right? So use also these rules to your advantage. Knowing the theoretical draws and wins are gonna help you in your endgames. So in this one, let's say that we only have the bishop and black has this pawn. Black can still win, and you cannot win with only the bishop, right? So you don't take this pawn. You can flag your opponent, and he is gonna have to move. You don't take this pawn again. You can even pre-move and move like in this diagonal. You can go to this other diagonal. It doesn't really matter. You're not taking this pawn, right? Because he can still win, but you're gonna win on time in this case. There is something else I would encourage you to do, especially when you have about equal material, but your opponent is low on time. So offer a trade of queens. And you might see these kind of moves that are kind of scary, right? They move the queen from one side to the board to the other. Statistically, you will have 50 to 50 chance to get to the square that you want to protect with your own queen, right? There might be other pieces, so maybe that statistically changes. But here you can get to this square in one move. And it has happened to me uncountable times that I play something like this, queen d3, and they get scared, or they just move the king. Okay, they just hung the queen. So yeah, don't be scared of these long range moves because your queen can do the same thing. So yeah, you can just get here, offer a trade of queens, and if they trade queens, you're perfectly fine. You also have the pass pawn, and you can never lose this game. The next piece of advice is if you have a piece that is trapped, take as much material as possible. Like in this example, so here we take the pawn, they take, and we take the pawn, our bishop is lost, but at least we took 2 pawns. It's not super clear how to win with white. We have 2 versus 2 on this side of the board, and if we can get rid of this, of all the pawns, then black is actually playing for a win. So yeah, they have to also sacrifice. They might have to give some material back for these 2 extra pawns that we have on this side of the board. Whenever possible, don't help your opponent develop their pieces. For example, here is white to play, they play f3, and we take this pawn because why not, right? So, and then they take back the pawn. They have a big wide center. They can play something like knight f3, and yeah, they have all the advantage in this position. Instead of taking that pawn, just because they offer it to you doesn't mean you have to take it. Here, why don't you play e6? And now they have to solve this problem of developing the knight. But yeah, don't help them in this position. Whenever you're facing a strong opponent, you want to create as much chaos as possible. So what is the difference between a tactical versus positional play? So in this case, it's going to be an example of the Ruy Lopez, where pieces don't face each other, right? They are not attacking each other. So this is all theory. And let's see, we reach move 7. And I am not attacking any piece except this pawn. And this knight is not attacking other piece except this pawn as well. So let's see one tactical position where, for example, here, now we have more chaos, right? We have more tactical opportunities. These pieces are seeing each other, attacking each other, as well as the knight. This queen is attacking this pawn and this bishop. So here we have different options. For example, we can go here, going for this trap. Another option will be just protect this knight. But this is more chaotic, right? This is more tactical. We have better chances when we're facing stronger opponents, get into these tactical positions, as you can have an advantage. If you do something very, very slow, they probably have a better understanding of the game that you might not have equal chances to win. They just grind you down slowly but surely. Alright, the next tip is useful at all levels. Sometimes it looks like the opponent is blundering a piece, but they might have set up a trap. That can be the case. So in this case, okay, we take the pawn in the center, and the opponent goes knight takes on d5, blundering the queen. Wait a why are they blundering the queen? Yeah, if you think here, now they give a check. The only move available in the position is to defend. They have the forcing check, and now you lose the bishop, and you are down on material. So just because the opponent is giving you a piece doesn't mean they actually blunder, right? Slow down. Or if they actually blunder, then just double check just to see if there are any checks available, any kind of traps where they can lead on material, okay? The next tip is going to be make moves that imply a threat. Maybe you're putting pressure to some pawn, or you're kicking out a piece, but here you want to keep the game going, especially when you or the opponent is on time scramble. You make a move that is okay, like putting pressure on one pawn. For example, here I'm playing rook a6, so my opponent has to defend the pawn, and now you know what, I'm happy because I can get to this open file or this open file. So that was the whole point, right? And now the game keeps going. I actually go for this skewer, so the rook was here before and it could have been defended with the king, but now I can skewer and gain the rook. So yeah, you always want to make these moves that don't really seem to make any progress, but you are actually putting pressure on the opponent and pretending to win material. I have other example here where I'm playing white, so there is a very clear threat, right? There is this pin, so I play e5. My opponent wants to kick out the bishop. Not even the best move. The best move is to retreat, and there are some weird positions where, okay, the knight goes here, but I figure, okay, I'm gonna take this knight anyway. So they have to take, I take the knight, and everything is good. But no, they decided to move the knight. Okay, sorry, here. They decided to move the knight, and I was like, okay, my bishop is happy and alive. So the game just continues, but this is just an example of making a move that implies a threat, right? The threat was to take the queen, and now I'm getting also rid of more material, and the game continues, and now my bishop is back to safety. I can activate my rooks. Everything is great. It's like the dream position for white.